One more game before Pitt fans get an emotional break with a bye week coming up. But first, we have to watch the Panthers take on the number 3 team in the nation this week. Notre Dame has been impressive, but do the Pitt Panthers actually have a chance in playing a spoiler this week? We preview that game and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today. Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is. One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world! Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of October 24th, 2020, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Vince.
And I'm Pam.
We're without Alan this week, and all we got to think about is, what could have been. Back in February, and even as late as September, Panther fans were targeting this clash with the Fighting Irish as a top 10 showdown with College game day at Heinz Field. Now, after 2 one-point losses and a decisive loss to Miami last week, Pitt's season is on the ropes. We'll see if they can avoid a knockout and counterpunch their way back into salvaging this season.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can salvage the season. There's a lot of work to be done, and it starts against Notre Dame, one of the best teams in the country. But before we preview that game, be sure to check us out at H2P Show on Twitter. If you want to engage in a conversation, hail2pittpodcast@gmail.com. We always appreciate the feedback on Panther Lair. And as always, we're broadcast by Pretty Easy Podcasts. They are fantastic, our friends at Pretty Easy Podcasts. And if you want to have a podcast about anything, they can help you get started there. They have a number of great clients with a wide variety of topics. So anything is in the realm of possibilities, and they make it so easy for us.
Yep. If you want to start your very own podcast, check out Pretty Easy Podcast to get started today. So Pam, as you said, we're without Alan this week. He is engaging in his wedding almost as we speak. We are within hours of when that is going to be happening. Congratulations to him. Hopefully everything goes well.
Congratulations to his soon bride-to-be as well.
Yeah. But we got to talk about this just disappointment after disappointment in the Pitt season, going down to Miami this week, a road game, second road game of the season, and just did not go well. And I know you weren't on the show last week, Pam, but we had kind of talked, me and Alan and you offline. Once we saw Kenny Pickett was not playing in this game, that was a bad sign. That was going to spell bad news.
But it was bad news. I didn't feel confident of them winning regardless if Pickett was there or not. But what do you think of Joey Yellen in his debut? I didn't think he looked too bad at times when they gave him a chance to throw the ball. Yeah, I think he actually did pretty decently. There were several times where he probably didn't get rid of the ball quick enough, and right. That may be to be expected for a kid that hasn't really played too much at all this year, and only had minimal experience, minimal game time action last year at Arizona State. But aside from that, I thought he looked pretty good. I don't think he was terribly off target with a lot of passes. I thought the offensive line most of the time actually gave him enough time to throw the ball against a very good Miami front. So if you are looking for positives for this game, and specifically looking for positives going into this huge matchup with Notre Dame, the fact that Yellen's going to be the starter again, we presume, I think that's a step in the right direction.
It's still going to be a tall ask, no doubt about that. But I think Yellen looked pretty good. But he ain't getting very much help otherwise, Pam. And they still can't run the ball at all.
I know Coach keeps injury situations very close to the vest and doesn't let the media or anyone know what's going on. Are we assuming that the very earliest Pickett can be back is after the bye week? They play Notre Dame, they have a bye, and then they play Florida State, I believe. Yes,
and he did indicate that the Yellen would be the starter this week.
Oh, okay.
So, barring some miraculous recovery from Kenny Pickett, it sounds like Joey Yellen's going to be getting all the majority or at least all the first team reps, which is a good thing. And we'll see what he can do. But this running game is not helping him at all. Under 30 yards rushing against Miami. And a lot of times some of these running plays are going for negative yards. Negative yards. Should they even be throwing at this point?
Well, yeah, they should be.
Even running at this point.
They should be running. But, we were watching the game and Sibley looked good on that first series and then never to be seen from again. But I think it goes back to the scheme and the system. They had negative rushing yards at times because they set up these long, elaborate things and it takes place behind the line of scrimmage. We need to run through the tackles more, not run outside. We need to run straight and set it up straight. And the offensive line looked better this week than in weeks past.
Well, yeah, but even at times, though, when it's in short yardage and they do try to line up, under center, with a fullback, they're getting pushed backwards.
They are
in those situations. So, and I guess that when they do that, everybody knows they're going to run. So they're stacking the line against them.
It's just no creativity. Who's a fullback? If you're going to have a fullback in there on other plays, and don't run. Don't show all your cards on the table.
Yeah, and this is really, to me, this is coming to light in the red zone, which has just been horrible for Pitt these past several games. And, that's been there's been a number of reasons why they've lost these past 3 games, but that is certainly one of them. Just red zone performance has just been horrible. Too many times settling for field goals, and those aren't always a guarantee. And I got to ask you, what should be done differently for these plays? Is it strictly execution? Is it the play calling? What needs to be done different in the red zone?
I think they need to attack the middle of the field more, especially when they're not in the red zone, to open it up to let the defense guess a little bit to see what's going on. Everything's pre-scripted, it seems like.
Well, and I agree with you 100%, but and this is especially what hurt them in the red zone. They don't have a tight end.
Moraga caught a pass or a touchdown, right?
He did, yeah.
He caught a touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
But I think
that's not enough.
But I don't think you can blame it all on not having a tight end.
But that's a big target. That's typically the guy that you're going to have in the middle of the field. We can only help but wonder what would it have been like, this season if Lucas Kroll was. He was somebody that it appeared that they were going to rely heavy on.
Yeah, but can't they get more creative in the red zone? I feel like it's the same. We know they're not going to score. And I feel like there's also a lack of confidence. They need to do something to break through a little bit because I just feel like everyone's deflated here in the when they get into the red zone.
100% agree with you. Got to be more creative, no doubt about that. But when they do call good plays, execution has been just not good. Specifically from the wide receivers, these guys are dropping passes at an alarming clip. 69 drops during this season. That is not good. Not nice at all.
Since the start of last season.
Going back. It feels like it.
It feels like it, but at David Halejoint on Twitter, who covers the ACC, has a lot of great information. Pitt, by far, leads the nation with 69 drops since the start of last season. And you can tell, it's terrible. And that's the problem. If it was a this year problem, okay, maybe they didn't have enough practice time, yada, 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 guys, we're out. But it's since the start of last year, it's the same thing, and that's mental. Dropping passes on a consistent basis is a lack of discipline and a mental mistake.
Yeah, you add up the drop passes and some of these penalties, whether it be holding, false start, illegal procedure, illegal formation, that kind of stuff is just killing this team. That kills drives. You think about how many drives could be extended, or how many more touchdowns or field goal opportunities they could get if it wasn't for all these mistakes. And a lot of these drops, it's not like they're trying to make some spectacular one-handed catch. This is easy stuff a lot of these guys are dropping, and it is just disappointing. And I'm not sure what you do about that.
What about the penalties, too?
I'm not sure what you do about that either. And that's the thing, about, it's just the discipline on this team. They're getting 10 penalties a game. It's horrible.
And I think
it's
it
absolutely
really
horrible.
showed in the Boston College game, the discipline Boston College had compared to the discipline Pitt had. Yeah. I know there were some controversial calls in that, and we don't need to rehash it, but that is a well-disciplined team. And it's and an offense that's struggling, you're putting yourself behind with these offensive, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and you're not good enough to overcome that kind of stuff.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and it carries over to the defense, too. And just the amount of penalties that they're getting is horrible. I mean, we talked about it in that NC State game. They had 3 false starts on that opening drive, and I think or offside penalties on that opening drive. You can't keep giving away this free yardage, and it's not just those ones. It's a pass interference penalty. It's a defensive holding penalty. Those are automatic first downs. And with the way Pitt plays defense, that kind of stuff they can't do. I mean, they have a good pass rush most of the time. They're stopping the run very well most of the time. Their tackling's pretty good most of the time, but they do so much gambling on defense with their scheme and the way they're leaving these corners and guys in one-on-one coverage all the time, Pam, that you're leaving yourself susceptible for a couple big plays. And we saw 3 just complete blown coverages. I don't know if it was a guy fell down, somebody running free, just somebody was mismarked or what it was, but that kind of stuff, especially when your offense is not doing very well, you can't have that. You can't have it.
Well, and if they were getting beat, it'd be different. It's like guys are wide open. That's mental mistakes. Yeah. Once again, it's all mental. Yeah. It seems like a lot of their issues, and it comes down to coaching and getting people ready and prepared to play week in and week out.
You take away those three blown coverages, and you're talking about how a great defensive performance from this Pitt defense. It just seems like so much stuff is going wrong right now. You could talk about a number of things. There was, that on that fake punt call, Todd Sibley misses a block. If he hits that block there, Pitt probably gets a first down and then some. Paris Ford on that interception, gets tackled at the, whatever it was, inside the 20, down around the 10-yard line. If he could have just got to the end zone there. Not that he should have to.
I was going to say, you're talking about fake punts and guys returning pick sixes as a way to, generate offense and points. And that's just, those are things you can't rely on.
Well, no, you can't rely on it. But when you're going up against a very good team in Miami, and Miami's a very good team. There's a lot of talent on that team. I know they got waxed by Clemson, but everyone's
going to get waxed.
But a lot of people are. you need, sometimes you need that little extra. You need something to bounce your way, to make up for that kind of stuff.
But if you were disciplined, then you might not need to rely on these things.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just using an example.
You need a splash play or a big momentum changing play, but you don't need 2 to 3 of them. Maybe you need 1 of them a game.
Yeah.
But I mean, Pitt turns around. We talked about this. They play probably up until Clemson later in the season their hardest game on the schedule against Notre Dame. They're ranked number 3 in the nation.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about Notre Dame, but one thing is they can run the ball.
They can, yeah. They're averaging 100 or 260 yards a game. They got 3 running backs that are averaging over 6 yards a tote. That is very impressive.
And Kyron Williams did excellent against Louisville, having 127 yards there.
Yeah, even in a game where Notre Dame didn't score a lot of points. Only 12 points against Louisville. They still ran the ball very effectively, and I know that kind of seems like an outlier, but Notre Dame is averaging 33 points a game, and this running game that they have is very effective, and they have an excellent offensive line, and Pitt is going to need to be ready for this. But we should point out, in terms of Pitt's defense, one thing they have been able to do very well this season is stop the run. And, last week against Miami, they held them to only 2.6 yards per attempt. Only 109 yards total. And
they have that freshman running back from Miami is extremely talented. So they did an excellent job.
And De'Ara King himself. They held those guys down. That is Pitt's strong suit, is stopping the run. Notre Dame, they've been able to hit short passes with Ian Book. We talked about how they've been running the ball very effectively, but they don't have those big-time outside receivers. There's no Chase Claypool on this Notre Dame team.
Or Cole Kmet.
Yeah. They don't have those guys. But as we've seen, you don't need to necessarily be an outstanding receiver to beat this Pitt defense deep. You just need to look for a breakdown in coverage, or just throw a ball up on a one-on-one situation, and you got an opportunity to make a play. Where do you see Pitt's kind of defensive mode of attack here? Do you really just try to force Ian Book to throw?
I think so.
Take your chances there?
I think so, but the one thing that worries me there is, in the games Notre Dame has played, have they really needed to throw it all? I mean, the one thing is Louisville, that game was close, but they were able to run all through them and kind of control the clock that game. So I think,
against Florida State, they were given a game there. It was back and forth for at least for a little bit.
Yeah, but I think you do. I think because Notre Dame, they have 3 guys that average 6 yards a carry, so I think you do force them to do that. But I think you have to be aware. But it doesn't matter. Narduzzi's not going to change the scheme of them maybe taking a shot or 2, especially maybe using that middle of the field, like we said. With those maybe tight ends and receivers they have using the middle of the field there to open up the run game. I expect them to use the pass to open up the run game a little bit here at Notre Dame, to be able to maybe come out passing more, so to get Pitt on their heels a little bit, to run the ball. But I think Pitt's defense has a good chance. That's not what I'm worried about in this game. Notre Dame's defense is pretty good here. Yes,
they are. They are, holding opposing offenses to low point totals, just 11.5 points a game. Only Florida State's even been able to get over 20 on them, and that Travis, quarterback of Florida State, an excellent runner. He was able to cause some problems for them. That is not what they're going to be facing with Joey Yellen this week at all. So I'm not quite sure. You got to think Pitt's going to come out, and they're, from what we've seen from this season, I don't think we're going to see anything drastically different Do you?
No, nothing's going to change, which is frustrating because you have a different quarterback in there with different skill set in there. I don't think Joey Yellen presents the running threat that Kenny Pickett does.
No, not at all.
When a play breaks down, that's when Kenny Pickett is good with his legs especially. So I think, there's not much more we can say. I feel like we talk about the same stagnant Pitt offense every week, but I'd like them to use the middle of the field. That is my one plea.
Yeah, and I will say this, is that, they may not be great at catching the ball, but if you look at a Jordan Addison or a Shockey Jacques Louis
or Jared Wayne
or
even Turner,
DJ Turner, those top three guys there, those guys are good with the ball in their hands. And I would just love to see some more crossing routes, or quick routes, something to get those guys the ball, as soon as they can. And it's tough because the other team, whoever the opponent is, they're not going to respect Pitt's running game at all, and they're going to dare them to run.
Get them in the slot and use the middle of the field. And if you're successful, then you can run the ball a little bit.
I would. That's a good point. I would work those slot receivers kind of as a running game.
Right. Use it to open up the running game.
Or just use it as the running game. I'm not sure.
A 5-yard pass is just as good as a 5-yard run.
Yeah, Pitt. In my, unless they're going to significantly change up their formations or blocking scheme or something, to me, they should only be running the ball if they're up by, a tremendous amount of points with not much time left, and they're just trying to run out the clock. I think they really need to just, they're going to have to just keep throwing. I don't like it because of, how many balls the receivers are dropping and what that... all the shortcomings that could come with that, but I think that's what they got to do.
Do we see more like a Botaconda this weekend, do you think? Or do you think Vincent Davis still gets the majority of the carries?
It's hard to say. Todd Sibley did very good, as you pointed out, in that past game, and Coach seemed to acknowledge that in the press conference this week, and seems to maybe, hint that he's going to need to get him, the ball more.
Vincent Davis is just taking a beating. He is. For the kid's sake, give him a little break. He's been good at, like we said, the scheme and the O-line, but I'd like to see some of these other guys. Before the season, we talked about this as maybe one of the strongest position groups on this team.
Yeah, and I don't think Vincent Davis is a bad player.
No.
At all. I think just, either he is not seeing the proper holes for this, or he's not giving... or the line is not giving him an opportunity. It seems to either be one or the other. I don't know if there's any other way, some screen passes or shovel passes, something that you could try to do to get him more involved in the offense, to get him on the ball. But you got to do something there, right?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if there's anything else we can say about this Pitt running game and against Notre Dame. They, on paper, kind of match up okay against Pitt.
Yeah.
But we'll get to predictions at the end of the show like we normally do. But let's talk about some positive Pitt sports news.
Yeah.
Okay. First, we're going to lead with Pitt men's soccer. They, as of this live on tape recording this afternoon, became the #1 team in the nation. And a large part of that was... earlier over the weekend, they beat number 5 Virginia, and sophomore Valentine Noel was named the co-offensive ACC Player of the Week. He scored twice against number 5 Virginia. He's actually tied for second, I believe, in the nation in scoring this year. And so the Pitt men's soccer team, there's only 3 more games until the ACC men's soccer tournament, which begins in the middle of November. But they're looking really good out here right now.
Yeah, it's just, and we'll talk about this with the women's program as well. It is just unbelievable how good they have gotten and how quickly they have got there. In the ACC, which is, traditionally the toughest soccer conference in all of the land.
Yeah, and I mean, they hired excellent coaches for both sides, but congrats to the men's soccer team, and equal congrats to the women's soccer team. They shut out Miami 2-0 on senior night. They're ranked in the top 10, I believe.
Yep.
And they have a big matchup coming up against number 4 Clemson coming up here in a few days, and then they have 3 more games, and the ACC tournament starts on November 10th. So both teams have 3 more games over the next about 2.5 weeks, and they will be super competitive and maybe even favored in that ACC tournament. Yeah. I mean, it looks like the men's team, Virginia's a very good team, so we'll see what happens. If they can both finish strong here, they definitely have a chance to be the ones leading the ACC here.
Yeah, they have a chance to be the top dog in the ACC and maybe even the whole entire country. I've been watching some of these games on the ACC network. They are fun to watch.
Yeah.
Some excellent football being played at the University of Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent football. So, let's talk a little bit about what people are saying online. I said it last week. I was spending a little bit too much time on the internet, on Panther Lair, reading some just horrible things. A lot of it true sometimes too.
Yeah, I took the lead on this week's online chatter to give you a break, and I think we'll definitely be able to tell.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
So, all right, we got something from Wesley991. I believe this is on Twitter.
Yes, okay. These are both from Twitter.
Okay, Mr. Fitzgerald, I believe he's talking about Larry. Could you please come to Pitt on your off week and give a clinic to the Pitt wide receivers on how to catch a football? So frustrating. You spoiled us Pitt fans. I've actually seen somebody clamor for this on Panther Lair, and they even went one step further to say after Larry Fitzgerald retires, they would like to bring him back as some sort of, catching consultant.
We saw it last night in the Monday night game. He caught the ball, reached out, got the first down. True professional.
Yeah, I don't still one of the greatest to ever play the game. I don't think he's going to be coming back to Pitt to coach anybody, but
no, this person was just asking in their off week, and I agree. Just take a week. I mean, the pandemic probably not, and NFL protocols, but this offseason, can you just spend some time with the receivers?
That would be great. That would be great, but I don't know if that'll be enough. This is it either you can catch the ball or you can't, and maybe these guys can't.
Along the same lines, a little more positive maybe note here. This Pitt team's drained the life out of us emotionally at times. So at RJ Sepik on Twitter, he said, or she said, I love how it's 2020 and the Arizona Cardinals still feature 2 players from the 2003 Pitt Panthers, the team that made me fall in love with college football. I know we typically feature things people are saying and, how people can be angry at this team, but I just thought, let's bring some positivity. 2 people, Larry Fitzgerald and Andy Lee, correct?
Yep.
Still out there day in and day out with the Arizona Cardinals.
2 future Hall of Famers, if you ask me. And Arizona Cardinals, they've been known as Pittsburgh West for a long time. Just with a lot of Pittsburgh connections there. And that 2003 team had probably the most hype out of any Pitt team, certainly in my lifetime. But still fell short, and fell short in a lot of disappointing fashion, early and often.
But it's good to see 2 guys having super long careers.
Yep.
Representing the Panthers in the pros.
Yep, 2 of the best to ever do it at their respective positions, and maybe even other positions if they tried. As far as what's people are talking about around town this week, Two things I noticed. First of all, Pam, you said that you've heard a lot of people talking about Allen's wedding.
Absolutely.
Just a huge event. Congratulations to him, as we said at the top of the show, and his soon-to-be wife, which was going to be probably less than an hour away.
That's what people are talking about. People are talking about weddings and celebrating and the positivity. So we just want to shout out our fearless leader, Alan Tazinski, on his big day. The pandemic ruined his plans, but they were able to make the best of it in a secret location.
Yeah, they persevered. At an undisclosed location. I did hear some stuff around town that I did want to talk to Alan about. Maybe I'll talk to him next week about how there's, Pitt's going to have fans at this game, but there's a lot of people, just discussing about when they're going to be leaving the game in order to beat the traffic. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. But a lot of stuff happened at Pitt. A lot of stuff happened around the country as well, and that's why we got to talk about some college football happening around the country. The Big Ten is joining the fray this week, and this appears to be Ohio State's conference once again, if you read up on this at all. And Pam, I got to ask you, can anybody, beat this Ohio State team this year?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't drag it out.
I don't think so either. Penn State's also ranked in the top 10, but
their running back's going to be out for the year.
Yeah,
did you see that today?
Was it Journey Brown?
They medical issue came up in evaluating him as well.
You never like to see that. And Micah Parsons, they're a great linebacker, certainly probably going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. He opted out at the beginning of the season. So, they're to me, their defense, maybe without him isn't going to be strong enough, and their offense I don't think is that dynamic. I really don't. Especially with that Clifford at quarterback. I don't think he's good enough. And I don't see, how they're, even though they're ranked in the top 10, I don't see them beating Ohio State. We're going to find that out next week, actually. There's going to be a big showdown in the middle of Pennsylvania for that one. And, the rest of the teams, a Michigan, a Minnesota, a Wisconsin, I guess there's some decent teams there. But, Ohio State's just been, recruiting and operating at a whole nother level. And it doesn't appear that any of these other teams have, worked up enough in order to beat them this year. Yeah,
and Justin Fields, I am not the biggest Justin Fields fan, but I think he's on a mission, and he's been a leader, and I think he's ready to make his mark on this program and on college football. He did it last year, and I think he's ready to continue that this year. So, we've got more football this week, so that's always good. Yep. But the one game that I'm really looking at, let's start outside one of the Power Fives. Let's start at number 9, Cincinnati against SMU, number 16. Yeah, a big matchup.
I am really excited to see this game. Since Cincinnati, an excellent defense. SMU, just wild offense.
And this game starts at 9 o'clock on Saturday night.
That's what it's all about.
I thought you said there were no late games.
Oh, I didn't say that. I just said there weren't a lot of them.
Okay.
But this is probably more than going to make up for it. SMU, 2.5-point favorite at home at the Westgate right now. My head tells me to pick, the stronger defensive team in Cincinnati, but I just love SMU's offense, and it's good for college football if SMU's doing well. So I'm going to pick SMU.
I'm picking Cincinnati here.
Yeah, I figured that.
I think they're gonna win. Yep.
All right. Okay. This next game here, I think this is one we're both going to be very interested in. The number 17 Iowa State getting 3 and a hook on the road in Stillwater at the number 6 Oklahoma State Cowboys.
I was shocked to see Oklahoma State ranked 6th today. I was shocked.
Yeah, well, they've had a lot of games postponed due to COVID. They had a close scare against the a tough Tulsa team. So you wouldn't think that maybe they would be ranked this high, but they are. There's a lot of talent on that team, particularly on offense. They are at home in this game, but I'm
more Iowa State. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. This is who they beat. They beat Tulsa. That was a weird game to start the season. They beat West Virginia 27-13. West Virginia,
Yeah.
And they beat Kansas. Come on now. And then Baylor was postponed. So they haven't really... I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Iowa State, I haven't been as impressed with them, but at times they let us down that first week against UL. But I think they have the more experienced team, with Purdy.
With Brock Purdy, they're very solid at the quarterback position, and Breece Hall doing an excellent job running the ball for Iowa State.
Let me clarify. It's not that I haven't been as impressed with their offense. Their defense is what let me down. And that's normally Matt Campbell's thing.
Right, yeah. Their defense has not been good.
Right.
And you could argue Oklahoma State's defense is probably better than what it's normally
Correct.
been. But I'll tell you this, Oklahoma State, they've had some quarterback injuries, and it sounds like, if you believe what Mike Gundy says, that they're having multiple guys take reps with the first team.
I don't believe a thing Mike Gundy says.
Yeah,
I'm putting myself on record saying that very passionately.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If you're playing two quarterbacks, you probably don't have any.
That's right.
So I am going to go with the Clones here in a close game on the road. Matt Campbell, excellent as an underdog. So that's why I'm going to be going with them. The ABC primetime game, number 18, Michigan, getting 3 points on the road at Minnesota.
This game's at 7:30 on Saturday night. What do you think about Michigan getting points here? I mean, I'm actually Michigan is a favorite in this game. I'm sorry, I wrote that. I wrote that wrong. Yeah, I'm checking right now at the win, and then they are a 3.5 point favorite, up a little bit from the 3. I'm seeing 3 at other places. Something to keep an eye on though about this game. Michigan just issued a stay in your dorm room or stay at home order for kids on campus. It does not apply to varsity athletes, but COVID is running rampant at the University of Michigan right now. So just something to keep an eye on for this game.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what to think here. Minnesota, especially with Bateman coming back at receiver, they should have a pretty good team. They got an excellent rushing attack. They definitely have the experience advantage. Michigan, they got a lot of young guys on this team, but that Joe Milton at quarterback, I believe is his name. A lot of people really are high on this kid. So, they're inexperienced, up front, but if this kid is as special as what some people are saying, that maybe that's. Maybe that's enough to sway things. What do you think?
Yeah, and Jim Harbaugh has indicated, as much as you can, that Milton will be the starter. He's a redshirt sophomore, but he's one of the more experienced quarterbacks on the roster.
I think they had another quarterback, but he decided to transfer after, it was apparent that Milton was going to win the job.
Yeah, it was the quarterback decision was between him and redshirt freshman Cade McNamara.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much a two-person race. They say McNamara's still in the race. Milton's going to take over this job. It'll be interesting to see if Harbaugh with a more explosive quarterback can actually make some noise, because that's where they've had issues there.
I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging in this game, because normally I would have said, you take Minnesota with the points at home, and especially given their experience. But, maybe there's something to this kid. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research. It's tough.
We haven't seen him.
We haven't seen very much.
11 career passes.
Yep, have not seen very much of him. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. And what's
this one,
supposed
if you're
to be
a gambling person, I'd stay away. I feel like we need to get some more information on these teams.
Yeah, it would be nice to get some data on both these teams. But you could say, the more experienced team at home getting points, maybe that's what you do. I don't know. But the one big game that we are all waiting for, number 3 Notre Dame, 10.5 point favorite.
Before you make your prediction, let me ask you, are you shocked that it's only 10.5 points?
Well, we're going to be talking about that. I think, first of all, we both could probably agree that we wish Notre Dame was ranked number 2. I think if they were, then Pitt would for sure win this game.
Because we're good at beating number 2 teams.
Yeah, very good at that. I'm not surprised by this line, particularly because Notre Dame has not been that explosive, throwing the ball this year.
So they don't put up. I see what you're saying.
Well, not that they can't put up a lot of points, but they haven't been throwing the ball downfield. How they've done in the past, and Pitt's strength on defense is, stopping the run and getting to the quarterback. And if your receivers cannot get open as quickly, that gives the Pitt pass rush a little bit more time to get to you. And if you're if the Pitt defensive front is really playing up to snuff, then you're running into a brick wall there. So from that standpoint, I think Pitt's defense is going to match up pretty well with them. Yes, some of these injuries have been hurting the Panthers, no doubt about that. No Keyshawn Camp in the middle there, I think has been bad for this defense. As good as some of these younger kids have been playing, they don't quite have the pass rush. They can't push the pocket as much as what they've been able to do, and against a big offensive line, it's going to be tough. A smaller guy like Kalijah Cansey, he's really going to have to use his quickness in order to get in there to really disrupt things, which I think they're going to need to do.
So what's your prediction?
Well, and you look at Pitt offensively, they're just making so many mistakes that it's killing them. And I don't know what. I wish I could say that we're going to see something much different and they're really going to start executing better, but that hasn't happened. The past 3 games, it has not happened. Pitt, as we all know, Pitt does play Notre Dame very tough most of the time, and this is not a very dynamic Notre Dame offense at all. So I think it is going to be a close game. I don't think the Panthers are going to win. I think they're going to come up. They're going to come up just short, and I think they're going to lose the game. I'm going to say 20-16.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a very close game, and I think Pitt could very well lose it in the final seconds because in these close games they haven't been able to make the big play that they need to.
So I got 24-13. So I think Notre Dame barely covers, but I think it is going to be a little close, but I don't think that Pitt offense can put up any points. I think Alex Kessman has 2 field goals for Pitt and an extra point, bounces back a little bit here, maybe even a long one. But I think Notre Dame's just too much and too talented, and we just haven't seen any change. So I think I got 24-13 here. Yeah,
I could see it going like that. I do think it will be a close game. I don't think it's going to be decided until the fourth quarter, even though it may seem like a mismatch on paper somewhat.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have this week. We might be taking a mental rest next week. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Congrats to Alan and his beautiful bride.
Yep. Congratulations. Stay tuned to Twitter at H2P Show. See if we'll be back for see if we'll be back next week, if not the week after. And hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
Living in your